Hello and welcome back to round number 6 here at YCS number 200 here in Utrecht. I'm still here with Matt Bell.
Sup, guys?
Our audience is always really small at the start. It always feels a bit weird talking to
It builds
just a
up. It's
small
kind of
amount
like
people.
we build up to the...
Climax at the end of the round.
Yes.
Yeah.
I forgot the word.
Okay.
So this round's going to be super interesting. We have Sky Strikers, again, stay with me. And the interesting part is his opponent is going to be playing what we're calling 60-card snow control.
Yeah.
So essentially, we've run out of names for that grass looks greener style decks. So we just decided to, well, what's common across all of these decks? Well, snow.
Yeah. And they're playing a lot of cards, so why not?
Ground control to major snow.
Yeah.
It would seem. But it'll be super interesting to see how this plays off against each other. As we've seen, Sky Striker is very good at outgrinding pretty much every other deck, but snow is like an infinite resource.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Can it keep up? That'll be something interesting to see.
Yeah. As for the player win rates, Themis is sitting at a 69% win rate from last season.
Really high.
That is really high. Elias Stahlberg.
How many tournaments?
That's 11 tournaments.
11 tournaments, okay.
And Elias was 62%. So both of them still, that's pretty high win rate.
Pretty high win rate, but favoring Themis.
Themis, yeah.
Favoring Themis slightly.
Exactly.
And I think Themis is on the Sky Striker deck, actually, the known deck.
Yeah,
so that'll be... So maybe things slightly in his favour, the player win percentage and the more well-known deck.
Yeah, exactly. We've not quite got our deck win rates yet, but let's see what this particular matchup does for this for these decks. Let's head over to Tom Payne and Oliver Gurman. Let's do this.
Yeah, guys, today's tournament is shaping up to be one for the history books, not just the attendance. We also see a lot of rogue decks still in competition here.
Oh yeah, it's pretty exciting.
Like last round, in fact, the other deck at table 1, if you remember, when we went over all the decks, it was a Cyber Dragon deck. So somebody was playing like a pure version of Cyber Dragon, with some of the new cards, of course. And that allowed them to go undefeated, at least so far into the tournament.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, so... and even more so, if the tournament is very large, you have a higher chance with one of those a little bit more creative decks
I guess
to
there
do
are
well.
there are just more of them.
Yeah,
people trying it out.
You just end up with like the weirdest of matchups, and then if you have like the element of surprise working in your favor every single round, that's gonna give you the edge eventually.
Well, it's probably something that Elias has got going on here, the element of surprise.
Yes and no, because he played this deck before.
Well, I mean, he played a 60-card deck, I think, but I'm not sure
if it was exactly the same.
I think a lot of the cards have changed quite a bit. So one of the cards that the 60-card deck centered around before, one of the key combo pieces was Invoker.
Mm-hmm.
So you would use a Predator Plant, you would summon either a Lone Fire or the Predator Plant Scorpio and get the Cobra, and then that would turn into Invoker, and Invoker could fetch 1,000 Blades. In the meantime, you've searched Brilliant Fusion off your Predator Plant engine, so then you can turn your Invoker and so on.
We need to speed this up.
Yeah. But Invoker was a key combo piece, and now he's chosen to replace the package with some dinosaurs. So like we said, the dinosaurs being mixed with other engines, which is more...
we were going to talk about
like
that
we're used to seeing.
And more in just a bit more detail. Let's take you guys to the table where these guys are ready to get their game on. All right, here we have Themis Gkyzis on the left-hand side, Elias Stahlberg on the right-hand side.
So we've been told that Themis let his opponent go first.
Oh, okay.
It's always interesting to see. Themis likely knows what his opponent is playing because he's been playing decks like this before, and he can obviously see that his opponent is running 60 cards.
Themis is also part of a larger group of players that they obviously exchange information in between rounds.
Oh yeah.
So they're like, oh, I played against this guy. You wouldn't believe what he has been playing. And once one member of his group has gone up against Elias, basically everybody in the group knows exactly what
yeah, by
Elias
the time
is playing.
you know, I guess there's some sort of critical mass of enough people, you get enough gossip.
Yeah.
Someone, you kind of know what everyone's playing by then.
Something that I immediately noticed, because we've actually seen the game of Elias where he was in the finals before in some of our pre-recorded content for this, basically when we show you older matches. He was notorious for having his cap in a way that there's only shadow. You cannot see his expression at all.
Themis actually asked him to turn the cap around.
Did he?
Yeah. Maybe it just wants to stare him in the eye.
I think he was unleashing the beast, because if you've seen that all-time classic movie, Over the Top, once you turn around, this cap is like you're starting an engine and there's no way he's going back. So basically he's now in overdrive mode, shifted gears. You don't sound very convinced.
It's less exciting than that. Themis just asked him to turn it around.
No,
Yeah,
that's
he
not
didn't
what
want to.
happened. That is not what happened. I'm 100% sure he did this on purpose to start his engine, and he's going to get going once it's his turn.
I mean, we can see Themis' gambit of going second paid off pretty well. I'm not sure you can ask for much more than your opponent just passing on their first turn when you choose to go second. You just get a bonus card.
Okay, the more you badmouth
you just
Elias,
get 6 cards and then you can attack as well on your first turn, whereas your opponent's done nothing. So that seems pretty good.
All right, I'm turning into a full-blown Elias fan here. I cannot agree with all of this criticism here.
I'm not criticizing him. I'm just saying it's gone well for Themis. If Themis is now going to resolve engage for a draw on his first turn, which again is pretty insane for Sky Strikers if they're doing that, because they're almost certainly going to resolve it twice, which means they draw 2 and get 2 searches for basically any card in their deck.
I guess you might be right.
I think at the moment Themis is probably fairly happy with how things are going. He's going to multi-roll things back in the end phase as well. He's drawn the Metal Foes Fusion, which normally you don't want to draw. You want to send it to the grave with Foolish Burial Goods. But if you send it to the grave with Area 0, then that's fine. That's a perfectly good use for it, because then you can draw off it anyway. I would say things are going pretty well for Themis
on a
right
scale
now.
from 1 to 10, how good is the opening of Themis?
But this is his second turn. Does it count as an opening?
Yeah.
People, you guys, I remember
turn.
watching your feature matches.
Yeah.
And you would scale it.
You did your homework.
Yeah, I did my homework. And you would give these scales, and you would talk about what could make it better. I think now the component that was missed actually was the fact that now it is feasible and people do actually just kill their opponent on the first turn. So I'm not sure you can give it a 10 unless your opponent actually doesn't get to do anything at all.
Right.
What do you reckon? Do you reckon that counts as a 10?
I would say that's a very high ceiling, to quote my good friend Tom Rose, who is with us in spirit this weekend. He's actually doing quite well.
I mean, he's in the tournament as well.
He's in the tournament, and he told us he's doing quite well. I think he's 1 loss.
1 loss.
Yeah.
With Burning Abyss, almost certainly.
Yeah, but I'm not willing to give that away just yet. We're going to do that once he's in the feature match.
Aha, okay. So yeah, so we've seen Themis now. Again, if you're getting the engaged double draw on your first turn, that is pretty nuts.
Is that a thing, that it has like a distinct name and everything? Or
I don't think I just made that up.
All right. Like
2 draws,
magician.
double, bit of alliteration.
Yeah.
Why not?
It wasn't. I would give it a 5.
You'd give it a 5. 5 out of
5
5
out
out
of
of 5.
5 out of 10 Germans.
5 out of 7.
Yeah, I'm just going to copy Jeff Goldblum from now on.
So yeah, I would say he's proccing his multi-roll as well multiple times. So this is looking like a pretty solid opening.
At what point, when you're Elias Stahlberg, do you just say, like, let's call it a day?
I mean, it's a bit of a strange one because you know that the Sky Striker deck isn't going to kill you. So it's kind of weird to just concede when you're not dead. And it's kind of like you just kind of know
you get
they're just
more
going to slowly
information.
Grind you out. They're going to try, you're going to play a card, they're going to play one, and then maybe next turn they're going to end up with a whole load more cards and your cards have gone down. I mean, he's obviously got the Kaiju in his hand to shut off what his opponent's doing for 1 turn. So he might have a go.
Right.
But realistically, it doesn't look promising. He
All right.
doesn't really have much engine. And Themis, we can see, has got the Ash, which has typically been an extremely strong card against the 60 card variants. I mean, less pivotal now because there's no grass that they can draw in order to activate grass and like sort of win the game by milling 20 or something cards. And that's now gone. But if he's banking on maybe drawing a Predaplant and playing Kaiju, playing Predaplant, going great, that's not going to work because of the Ash in his hand.
So then he needs a lot.
And Themis has even gone to the... That's quite an interesting play, actually. So you can see he's he's used the multi-roll to kill his own monster, so it cannot be, overwritten with a Kaiju. So now even the Kaiju is not doing anything at all. So that's quite a nice play from Themis. So now there's no way for Elias to give him the Kaiju and then start playing with the hope that all of Themis's back row is shut off.
That's an excellent way of playing around your opponent, getting rid of your own cards. That used to be a thing in Macross when you wanted to get rid of your own monsters.
Their own board to not get hit by the Trishula.
Yeah, things like that. Or when you were playing against Shadol and you wanted to get rid of the
you wanted to get rid of your
special summon
extra
from the
deck
extract.
monster.
Yeah.
So yeah, we can see he's top deck that. So I mean, Themis has got the Ash anyway, so I don't think it's going to matter too much. And I would expect the Ash to come down just in case there's a response to the Ash. So if there's a response to the Ash, then you can activate the Widow Anchor
Right.
afterwards. Whereas if you activate the Widow Anchor and there was somehow a response to the Widow Anchor, you wouldn't then be able to Ash it.
So Elias Stahlberg clearly not looking very happy
Yeah,
here.
honestly, this may prompt the concede when you're... It's a really sad feeling when you've used your normal summon and you've got Ashed. But he's going to go for the beat down with a 3,000 attack point monster strategy.
It's a good strategy.
Sometimes.
It
Sometimes
used to
it is
be
pretty good.
game-winning strategy back in the days.
Back in the day, I mean, it's got as much attack as Blue Eyes White Dragon, which is quite a lot of attack. Few have faced the powerful
And
engine
came out,
of
yeah,
destruction
and
and
came
lived
to
or
tell
something.
Live to tell
Live
the tale.
to tell the tale. There
yeah,
we go.
pretty much.
But
I know the German text.
Dogoran doesn't actually live when it fights Blue Eyes. It dies too, but it does a good job because it kills the Blue
Yeah,
Eyes.
it's going to tell his friends in the afterlife.
Indeed.
In-
How
in
he
the-
nearly won.
The
If he'd had like one more attack point, it would have been,
Kaiju Karma plays or something.
it would have been
That's
great.
probably what it's called.
But no, this is just going to be a sort of grind from Themis, and depending on whether Themis can be bothered to figure out how to kill his opponent next turn, he might do that. And
Whether
I
he
expect
can
he
be
might want
bothered
to
to figure out.
show off on the feature
Well,
match.
but then again, like he just lost 3,000, more than 4,000 life points, 4,200 in fact, in just one turn.
Yeah, but
So-
I'm not sure he's that fussed. I mean, he could have activated Widow Anchor and to stop the attack if he wanted to. Take the dog around, you take no damage. But there's just no reason to do that.
So you're saying if he has to defend his life points, he has ways
Oh yeah,
to
yeah,
do
for
that.
sure. So he's got the Widow Anchor now, which he's using to defend his engage, which I think was targeted by the
Phoenix, Nightmare Phoenix.
by the Nightmare Phoenix. So now Elias has got enough. I mean, yeah, I just can't really see this going very well for Elias.
Elias.
He can play his double evolution pill, which is nice. He's going to have a Tyranno. But I assume Themis can just activate engage, search afterburner, and pop it. Okay. He's got Overtex Coatless rather than Superconductor Tyranno, which can negate a spell or trap and then search another copy of Double Evolution Pill, which is quite neat.
Mm-hmm.
So it might slow Themis down a bit. However, he does have the multi-roll on the field, so he can just activate the multi-roll first, and then... I don't know if Coatless can negate spell or trap effects, or only just activations, but in any event, if once he uses the multi-roll, then the Overtex Coatless has to negate the multi-roll, or it can't negate anything at all, even if it could negate an effect.
Yeah. Once per turn, when your opponent activates a spell trap quick effect. Oh, sorry, it's a quick effect. Yeah, you can destroy one dinosaur monster in your hand or face up on your field, and if you do, negate the activation. Destroy that card.
Okay.
Right?
Not really sure why Themis is using the Twin Twister on his Area 0 rather than just using the effective multi-roll on the Area 0, which seems to achieve the same thing without using the Twin Twister. But honestly, in this situation, he's so far ahead.
Maybe he's got a secret game plan.
Maybe he's got a secret plan. I mean, he's not going to use the Twin Twister for much else, but I don't think he needed to use it at all, if I'm honest. I mean, it gets to the point with Sky Striker where you just have so many cards, because you activate the engage multiple times in a turn, and that draws you more cards.
Right, so...
I'm not sure whether Themis is doing that in the end phase.
Yeah, I'm not sure either, but I don't think he didn't draw yet, so
No, he's got no...
fairly certain he didn't... he's doing it in the end phase.
Yeah, it looks like it. So now I'm not sure what they're discussing, but the Overtex Coatless is in the grave, so there's basically nothing to stop Themis from just OTKing his opponent next... Well, he's not an OTK, he's on 4,600. So he's almost certainly going to kill him next turn.
So now there's the question...
I'm not sure what they are discussing. I'm not sure how the Kaiju hit the grave.
Yeah, isn't he discarding it for the activation of the Quodulus?
So Coatless, I think, doesn't it not destroy a card, and he's chosen to destroy the Coatless?
I'm not entirely sure, but like that's the only version of how this played out that I can come up
But
with.
I don't know how the Kaiju has ended up in the graveyard and the Coatless has also ended up in the graveyard.
It's some sort of 2-for-1 special deal that you get at the 200th YCS.
Something like that, yeah. I'm a bit confused there, but something's happened, I guess. I'm sure someone in the Twitch chat will enlighten us as to what's going on in a minute or two, I guess. It might have just been some sort of miscommunication between the players. or some sort of miscommunication with myself.
Yeah, but interestingly enough, Themis gets, well, not interestingly enough, not surprisingly, Themis gets credit by the chat for this interesting play here.
I quite liked the play of, it's a very safe play of using multi-roll on your own Sky Striker monster, so it cannot be turned over with a Kaiju and then shut off your Widow Anchor. I thought that was
Ghost
very
Ogre
cool.
was changed to Overtex.
Ah, that's it. Oh, and then Overtex can't kill itself. That does make sense, yeah. No, that makes perfect sense. Yeah, I'd forgotten that because it had taken quite a while for something to happen. I assume the discussion as to whether Overtex could still kill itself or not. But now we just see the normal summon Ray and then attack with a Nightmare Phoenix and then Ray effect to attack for game.
Right. So, thank you guys as always. I am the commentator now. Yeah, that's a movie quote. Not bad. We don't have a ship though. Cannot steer it in any direction. All right.
So that seemed like a fairly straightforward... I mean,
yeah, it didn't
I don't
seem
know
like
how much
Themis
Themis
was...
knows about his deck, about Elias's deck, but Elias is also main decking Shadow Fusion. So another reason for clearing your own monster is to play around. As you mentioned, the play from a while ago is actually relevant now. Is that the Shadow? I don't know if he knows whether Shadow Fusion is in the deck of his opponent. It is certainly something to be aware of when your opponent's playing. So the dinos are often mixed with the shadows.
Themis is one of those guys where you can expect him to know stuff like that because
he's been playing for a very long time.
Yeah, not just that. He's also playing with an elite group of players,
Indeed.
so to speak. All of these Greek guys. Honestly, I'm rooting. Guys, let me tell you this. Every time after these events, I tell next event should be YCS Athens. I say that every single time.
I'm sure Themis will agree with you.
Themis would agree. Yeah, I'm pretty certain. And there are a couple of other guys that would agree with me. There's only a handful of Greek players at these larger events, but they tend to do extremely well. They're like the larger brother of Italy, because Italy has like 150 players representing themselves, or 100 players at the large events that are not in Italy, obviously. And half the time, like 50 or even 70 out of those 100 players are reaching day 2, and sometimes even 50% of them that reach day 2 make it to the top cut. No, maybe not that many, but a reasonable amount of Italian players. Especially considering that only a few are coming to these events. And for Greece, it's similar. They send like 10 guys, 8 guys are making it to day 2, and then 3 guys end up in the top cut or something.
I mean, I guess if you've got a smaller contingent, it's probably the people who are taking the game very seriously.
Yes, that is a very fair assumption.
And you would hope that you get some return. If you take the game seriously, you play a lot, that you start to see these better results.
Yeah. But you need at least like one guy who's like really competitive, and then he can teach like everybody else and get them up on his level, basically.
So, I mean, interestingly enough, one of the things that I love the 60 card decks for the amount of different stuff you can play and the things. You just have this pile of cards which your opponent's going to run out of cards before you do if it goes to a long game, and you've got all these interesting things. You can run Pot of Desires without as much fear as someone playing 40 cards. But one of the things that I feel edgy about with a 60 card deck is that you're much, much less likely to see the impact of your side deck cards.
Yes.
So he's got, I think, the only... I could see him siding in Hey Trunade. I could see him siding in Evenly Matched if he's choosing to go second, Imperial Order, and possibly Shared Rides. There's quite a lot of cards that could all possibly come in, depending on whether he chooses to go first or second.
But he might not see them, as you said, yeah.
But you might not see them again, like the one Imperial Order. Imperial Order is a card that, against Sky Striker in particular, you can just flip it and win the game. I mean, Themis' deck runs 32 spell cards.
That's a bit much.
Not being able to play 32 of your cards may be a problem. However, when your Imperial Order is 1 in 40, you're going to see it sometimes. 1 in 60, you're going to see it less times.
Thank you for those mathematically 100% accurate descriptions here.
I mean, it was accurate. It just wasn't very precise. So in Themis's, it looks like his printer had a bit of a problem when he printed out this deck list. He might choose to side.
Oh, right, because the extra deck and the side deck is actually grayed out completely.
I'm interested to see what comes in from the side deck. I mean, he's got the cherries, but I don't think there's any particularly useful targets for cherries that are good to come in. Obviously, if he had the Winder in his side deck, that would be pretty cool, but I don't think he does.
No, I think nobody does.
I mean,
I want to go as far as saying nobody does.
Infinite Impermanence is fairly generic and might come in. It's kind of fairly safe that your opponent... It can either, in a pinch, negate a monster effect that's irritating you, or a spell or trap if you've got the time to set it in the same column. So it's a fairly generic card that we might see come in favour of something like Shared Ride, which is maybe not so impactful. Right,
All
so
right.
I'm not sure who's chosen to go first because the judges haven't told us yet.
Yeah, I think they're still in the process of.
So it looks like
Themis
it
goes
looks
first.
like no one wants to go first in this game because Elias, the winner, the person who's been able to choose, has chosen to go second.
Oh,
each
right,
time.
right, right. Interesting. So there's Mind Crush in Themis' hand.
I'm quite intrigued by Elias's decision to side in Red Reboot.
Mm-hmm.
Because Sky Striker is about, well, it's got a large number of spell cards. I'm not sure what traps he's particularly afraid of. I mean, in fact, like, between Themis' main deck and side deck, he has 7 traps, 3 of which are heavy. No, he's got 10, to be fair, but most of them are not going to be seeing any play here. He has got the Mind Crush, so it will negate the Mind Crush. But Sky Striker's not really a deck you associate with traps so much as spells.
Not
really.
at all, no. So,
You definitely can play them.
do you agree with him just passing play when he goes first?
I think he probably chose to go second,
Okay, so
considering the Red Reboot
Yeah.
in the deck. I mean, Themis is open with some fairly standard Sky Striker tricks.
did Themis have 5 or 6 cards?
Themis had 5.
It was 5? Okay.
I mean, he's not attacked his opponent.
Right,
Unless
right,
he was afraid of Gauze, he probably would have attacked
nobody's
his
afraid
opponent.
of Gauze.
So I'm guessing he's chosen to go. Elias chose to go second.
Nobody in this venue is afraid
Especially,
of Gauze.
like, I'm not sure you would side in the Red Reboot unless you were hoping just to OTK your
Like,
opponent.
the only way you're afraid of Gauze is when you were watching an episode of the anime yesterday evening
So
and you had a nightmare where Gauze was really strong.
So we're going to play this game now where Themis
Hide and
has
seek?
Ash, and Ash will almost certainly... I might not activate on the Pot of Desires because he might be afraid, but Ash almost certainly comes down when someone activates Pot of Desires.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see the Gamma in the hand of Elias.
Ooh.
So then the question is if he hits the driver or not off the 10 cards banished for cost of the Pot of Desires. But he's not actually going to do that, which does strike me as a bit strange.
So you don't quite agree with the play?
I don't think I agree with that. I don't see why you wouldn't want to activate Pot of Desires before... because you might draw like a Shadow Fusion.
Yeah.
And Shadow Fusion you can use if your opponent controls an extra deck monster
But
and you don't. And now he's
does
put an extra deck monster on the field.
Does this indicate that Themis is not aware of the Shadow Fusion in Elias' deck?
I don't think so. I don't think you can play the Sky Striker deck and not like you can't just say I'm not going to leave anything on the field always. I mean, Themis in the last game had a lot of cards at his disposal, so for him to just get rid of one was kind of fine.
Right.
But in this case, I think he very much wanted the Shizuku Search to pick up the Engage. And he has Ash in his hand anyway, which can negate Shadow Fusion.
So again, he's sitting in a pretty comfortable position
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
He must love these feature match chairs. He's like, I'm sitting so comfortable
He's
here.
very comfortable. He's very comfortable in the feature match chairs. Yeah, honestly, I'm not sure why you wouldn't activate Pot of Desires at the beginning of your turn, especially when you have Pot of Desires Gamma, you're just thinking, great, I'm going to activate this Pot of Desires, he might Ash it, and then I'll Gamma it, and I'll get to draw 2 cards and summon a Gamma without using my normal summon. It's pretty nuts.
So yeah, Elias must be having some sort of plan that we're not aware of.
I mean, he's got the Foolish Burial, but other than that, there's not really any sort of gas in his hand. So he's used the Phoenix to destroy his opponent's face-down Shark Cannon. And then I'm not sure what he's going to send off Foolish Burial. Maybe an Overtext Coatless so he can activate double Evolution Pill. I'm intrigued that this Pot of Desires... Normally you have a draw card, it's the first thing you play.
Yeah.
I mean, Pot of Desires is one of those funny cards where you don't want to banish what you want to search before.
Mm-hmm.
However, in a deck
Sometimes
where
you're
you've got
forced to.
infinitely many... Foolish Burial has got a lot of good targets.
There's a Mind Crush
There's
for the
Mind
double
Crush.
evolution pill.
I mean, he's got the Red Reboot, so he may decide to activate that now. But the thing is with Red Reboot, if you activate Red Reboot, you're basically committing to killing your opponent, I would say. And I don't think that's going to happen, because the double evolution pill could get ashed if Themis wanted to.
Does he want to? Would you want to?
Would I want to? I don't know. I don't think Themis dies just to the T-Rex, or the Ultimate Conductor Tyranno, as it's actually called.
Yeah.
So you may just hold the Ash, because there are some really good things to act. There are a lot of very powerful cards in Elias's deck, almost all of which can be negated by Ash, like Pot of Desires, like Shadow Fusion, etc., etc. So if you know you're not going to die, you might just want to hold the card for as long as you can.
So yeah, it's...
Themis is also cited in the artifact package, which is quite neat. So artifact, you can pick up the scythe, which basically just shuts your opponent down for a whole turn, no matter what they're going to do.
Right.
It says no extra deck monsters.
So where's Elias going to go from here? Because now he has to go big or definitely go home.
Yes, so he's almost certainly going to activate the double evolution pill. I mean, am I expecting the answer is he's going to go home? But you never know. So yeah,
He drops the Ash Blossom.
So the Ash has been negated. So no, so you think if he'd activated the desires at the beginning of turn, it may very well have got Ash, and then the Gamma would have
extremely differently. That entire turn would have been so differently.
I don't know what he was afraid of.
It's very
I mean, he may have been afraid of the desire, but he was never going to be able to use the Gamma anyway if he started his turn with summoning a monster.
So that's definitely one of those questions that we want to ask those in the post-match interview. However, if Themis gets to win this match, it's unlikely that we're going to have Elias in a post-match interview.
Oh, and he's even drawn the driver off Pot of Desires.
Yeah. So now it's like...
That's really not what you want to see.
Double non-active, basically. Yeah.
Well, you can still use it in your hand. You can still summon it from your hand with Gamma.
Yeah, but Elias doesn't seem very impressed with his own hand.
No, I wouldn't be too impressed with it either. Oh, no, he's not drawn the Gamma. That was just a...
Oh, was it...
Oh, hang on. What's happened to the Gamma? Has it been a driver this whole time? Have I been talking nonsense?
Oh.
Maybe it's been a driver this whole time.
So... the app was misleading us. We just assumed that it was a Gamma the entire time.
I thought it was a Gamma. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe it's just changed now into a driver, and maybe the...
Oh no, sorry. The Gamma is banished. It ended up banished, according to our app. Let's go through everything here. These are the banished cards at the moment for Elias.
Oh, he banished it from his hand and then drew driver.
Yeah. So everything was correct that we said before.
Okay.
And which makes this even more unconventional, this whole thing.
Yeah, but I think at this point, Themis is in a very happy place. He's got Engage for next turn, which is the card that Sky Strikers very much enjoy playing. He's got Mind Crush still. He's now got the Sanctum, so for the turn after, there's not going to be any sneaky tricks like Shadow Fusion.
And also, like, Elias is pretty much out of gas at this point. I mean, he's now going for snow.
He's now going for snow.
Got the snow, but he doesn't have like infinite cards in his graveyard.
No, I think this is almost all of his graveyard gone as well.
Yeah.
So I mean, he might. Themis can choose to chain the Ray if he wants to, or he can just let it go face down. So he can chain it, summon a Kagari, and pick up something. Any other Sky Striker monster he's just going to summon is just going to sort of die needlessly. So might as well go for Kagari. Get the extra card back. But no, I would say Themis is in a fairly commanding position now.
Yeah, that's the understatement of the century, my friend. But the main thing to keep in mind is Elias kind of piloted himself in that situation all by himself. Like, he did have options.
He did. I'm not sure why he didn't start his turn with Pot of Desires.
Yeah. So
if I was going to ask him a question, that's what I would ask him.
Like, quite honestly, the post-game interview would be super interesting with Elias, like asking him questions like, why did you side in Red Reboot? Why didn't you go first with the pod? Things like that. There were a couple of unconventional moves that I didn't see coming.
Yeah, Red Reboot's definitely an interesting one. I mean, maybe he was aware that Themis was siding in Sanctum. But I mean, Sanctum is... I mean, it's a good choice, but it's not... It's definitely one to be aware of, but it's not necessarily one that is completely standard.
Yeah. No, I think everybody would agree to that, yes.
Yeah, it's not like one that you're going to be seeing in every deck. I'm not sure you're expecting to see trap cards in every Sky Striker deck. I think you would expect to see them in a lot, and a variety of different ones, but...
definitely not in every one.
I'm not sure they're so scary as well that you want a card like Red Reboot to deal with it, because Red Reboot is absolutely amazing if your opponent's got 4 traps face down. However, if they have 1 trap face down...
Meh.
Yeah.
We do need facial expression camera just for situations like this one. All right, so Themis has again managed to put himself in a very advantageous position. He's not quite yet controlling the board.
Yeah, no, it will in a second, though. Yeah, so he can pick up Widow Anchor here.
So we have some more fortune telling from our friend Tom.
There you
go. Yeah, there
so
she goes.
He might be able to put together a Boral Sword and attack the game, or just activate 2 Widow Anchors. But I don't think it's game if he activates 2 Widow Anchors, but it's enough for his opponent to decide that they don't want to play anymore.
Call it a day. Yeah, it's time for him to turn the cap around for a second time, go back to normal mode, because that didn't work out so well this match, even though he did it like free of choice, like his opponent. Okay, let's talk about it.
Sorry to spoil
in the
post-match
analysis, guys. Yeah, it seems like my 80s reference wasn't as correct as I predicted it to be. That Elias was like turning this cap around, then he goes into full overdrive. Or something else was happening here. It didn't really go his way.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I wouldn't want to understate that Themis actually played that quite nicely.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he may have known his opponent's deck and therefore chose to go second. And then you see that pays off in Elias's hand. He's got 2 Kaijus and a Mind Control. And it's like, well, those cards are pretty good going second, but they're not so good going first. And then he chose to get rid of his own Sky Striker monster, which shut off a potential Shadow Fusion and potential Kaiju. I mean, even though Elias wouldn't have been able to punish him anyway, he didn't have the Shadow Fusion, and realistically the Kaiju wasn't going to get him anywhere, which he did have. But
like Themis made sure
he made some excellent plays to increase his chances of winning.
Yeah, like almost no openings for Elias. I think if Elias goes up against somebody that is like coming unprepared, doesn't really know exactly what his deck is doing, what it's capable of.
Yeah, this is the sort of deck where players who have played a lot and have been playing in recent formats where this deck and similar types of decks have popped up before will be aware of, but maybe other players who have started playing more recently or haven't played as much won't necessarily know what it's going to do.
Right. So in the end, Themis Gkyzis, who did well a couple of times before, we featured him in the top 8 profiles. If you Google that, top 8 Themis Gkyzis, you might as well break the internet, because there's so many results where he, so many events where he did really well.
Yeah, he's definitely made the top cut a lot of times.
He's extremely consistent, and I cannot wait to hear a little bit more from him. Is there anything in his deck list that really popped out for you? I mean, you mentioned he's playing 32 spell cards, Sky Striker Pure.
Yeah, that is fairly
Anything
standard.
else?
I mean, the Sanctum package I quite like. It's one of the most... It's kind of reminiscent of Dimensional Barrier,
right?
Which was that card that said your opponent can't play for a turn, which is pretty good.
Yeah.
So obviously Dimensional Barrier doesn't have the same impact it used to, because we're seeing more Link monsters, and Link is not one of the choices on Dimensional Barrier.
The card is too old.
Probably because, it was printed before Link monsters.
Card needs to go to a retirement home, get nursed back.
Sanctum just says no monsters from the extra deck, and that does include Link monsters, so it's kind of a replacement for it.
A more like flexible replacement in that sense.
Other than that, there's nothing overly exciting. He's running 3 copies of Eagle Booster, which I think is kind of tipped to be quite a good card in the mirror match for stopping your opponent taking your monster with Widow Anchor, which is a very powerful swing in the mirror match. But other than that, I think it's fairly bog standard.
I'm just going to direct Themis to head over to our friends over there for the post-match interview. And I think with that we can... Whoa, we don't have time for that. So let's just do a quick recap with Luke and Matt. Let's take you guys over there.
Oh, we're on.
There we go. Sorry, you need to give us a warning, tech team. So,
we're in the Shadow Realm here. We sometimes don't get good signal, is all.
Yeah, it just doesn't quite come through. Luke won't pay for better service.
The Shadow Realm, it costs a lot. They don't have fiber yet.
We've got one provider.
Yeah.
Verizon, obviously. So, Sky Striker taking that down quite comfortably. I can't say I ever saw a situation where Themis didn't look like he was in control of the game.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ellis just 60 cards, and the biggest advantage of that is being able to dump as many of those into the graveyard as possible, and then start just using a ridiculous number of resources to outpace your opponent.
Yeah.
That just never sort of happened in this game. He just kept getting shut down, and he tried to make some plays around the second game. I get the feeling both players entered that game knowing way more about how their opponent plays based on the decision-making process. Like bringing in Red Reboot against Sky Striker is next level.
Yes.
Like you only do that if you know what you're doing. One moment, guys.
Arthur Roth to the main stage, please.
So we might not get good internet down here in the Shadow Realm, but the announcements
are...
Oh, they are pinpoint.
It's like Zeus screaming in your ear.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the round has begun.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, Ellis is not getting there with his snow control deck. I wish there was a lot to talk about, but really it was just a case of Ellis trying to limp into a game. I mean, you saw how he was trying to play around holding back the Gamma as long as possible.
Yeah.
When he finally ended up committing a monster to the field, all of a sudden he became very vulnerable to the Ash Blossom, which took away his last potential opportunity to get into it. And
Yeah.
that was unfortunate.
Do you think that we actually saw what Elias's deck could do?
No, that's not a fair representation of his deck at all. I mean, if you look at his record for the event so far, he's doing extremely well, so that would imply that when it's working, it's definitely working. That just looks like a massive misfire in both of those games, really.
Yeah, that always has to happen at some point. Better to happen during Swiss than in the Top Cut.
Yeah, you don't want to be sat in the finals and, like Finn Bakewell, UK Nationals, just draws two hands and goes, yep, can't play today.
That was tough.
Cheers, guys.
That was tough to watch. Finn, to be fair, we gave Finn justice at the end. They actually came up and spoke to me after that match, after he saw our commentary on that match and was like, oh, thank you for your kind words after the match. So.
Oh, that was nice of him.
Yeah, that was nice of him.
Usually it's, you're wrong.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay, sorry, I can't read your mind.
Twitch chat being meanies. Well,
don't encourage them. Like, if you start yelling at them, they'll yell
it's a
back.
good point. It's a good point. Okay,
All
but anyway, let's swiftly move on. So that was round 6. We've got 9 rounds today. We are, charging onwards.
Another 2 more rounds of Swiss today. But then, if you are watching at home, you can switch over to our US colleagues who are running their live stream for the 200 in Columbus.
That should have started already. Actually.
Yeah, they have begun. I believe they're starting up round 2 now.
Yeah,
actually.
So if you don't want to watch our awesome pre-recorded content, then please feel free to go over and watch the matches.
Speaking of pre-recorded content, we got a chance yesterday to have some fun with players. We had a couple of mini games that we'd like your feedback on, because some of them were utterly hilarious for us to record.
Yes, they really were.
I really wish we could show the full recording of those, but there were some words used that are definitely going to get our channel flagged. So
yeah, exactly. So yeah. Oh, okay. Tech team are just telling us we got a great signal that time. The first round of the mini games is actually going to come up straight after this, so please stay tuned here. Don't go watch the US quite yet, and let us know what you think. Let's head on over to the mini games.